This is Professor Derek Seitz. This video is about using Microsoft Excel and how to enter data from an external source. What's already happened in this spreadsheet here is that I have copied in two different rows of data from an external source. And you can see here, if I click on this one, what was a row of data separated by spaces in my external source has now come in to this one cell in F8. It looks like, multiple columns here, but when you click on it, you can see all that data is in one cell. And it's formatted, and I did the second row and it came into another cell. And my goal is to get all this data over into this data column to replace the example data that this spreadsheet started with, so I can do some computations with it. There's a tab here called Instructions. Let's look at that tab. First, it mentions what's already taken place, inserting the data. You copy the data to the Windows clipboard from the external source. I did this with two different copies, one for one row, another for the second row. Then you select a temporary target work cell where you want it to go into, and you paste it and use the paste option to match the destination formatting to keep it the same size as the rest of the spreadsheet. That's what already happened here with these two. As I say, they're not really rows, they're 5 items each. So the next task here is, what do you do handling a cell that contains multiple items in one cell? That's the problem I have right now. So first we need to select the cell. Go back here and deal with this one. It's selected. And then use the Data tab, Data Tools group, Text to Columns. Let's go through that and see how it works. We need to use delimited, tab and a space. Let's try that out. Data tab, Data Tools group, Text to Columns. Data tab, Data Tools, here's Text to Columns. Click that, and it brings up this Convert Text to Columns wizard. On the first screen here, we're going to pick that this data is delimited. It's delimited by spaces between the different items. We'll go to the next screen in this wizard, and we'll use spaces as a delimiter between the items, and possibly there could be a tab as well. We don't really know, so we'll leave that. And treat consecutive delimiters as though they're one. Go to the next. And now we'll just leave the general data format. And the destination where we want to put this, we're going to, as it says in the instructions here, leave it where it is in F8. So it's going to go right in there in F8. Click Finish. And now look what we have. We have no longer just 5 items in one column, but they went into separate columns now. So text went to columns. Let's go ahead and do that for this other row as well. Data, Data Tools, Text to Columns, delimited, next, tabs and spaces. It remembers what I did the previous time. Next, F10, that's where we want it. Finish. Now we have that one. Going back to the instructions, the next thing it says to do here is to copy this now to a column. Is what we want to do next. So it says copy to a temporary column using paste transpose. It says expand temporary column width if needed. What does all that mean? Let's go back over here into our data. There. So we'll start here. Well, first of all, this column, I can't even see all that value. So go up here to the column header. You move the mouse over to it looks like that, and you double click, and it expands the column. Now I can see everything real well. Anyway, what we're supposed to do now is get this first row into a column. That's the goal. That's what it says here, copy to column. So copy to a temporary column using paste transpose. Let's try that. My temporary column for this data, I'll put starting right here. So how am I going to do that? Take this data here and hit Control C to copy it to the clipboard. And then I'll go over to this place where I want it over here. And I'll say paste. And look at this one here, transpose. You see there, it looks like a 90-degree angle. I click that, and now I have that row as a column. And again, we need to adjust the column width to make it big enough. And we see that there were some leading spaces in this last item here. I'm done with this temporary data here, so I'll just delete that. Let's do the same thing with this other part of the data, which is supposed to continue onto that. So we'll select it like that, copy it to the clipboard, go down here because I want to continue it all in this column, right click, paste, transpose. All right, go back to this, delete it. So that's some progress. We now have that data that was in 2 cells in multiple cells now. However, my goal is to get it over here, and I don't want all this formatting. We go back over here, how to remove the formatting. We're going to be typing a new data pattern to the right of the temporary column's first item. Data pattern that has numeric only, no spaces, no commas, no $sign. So let's do that. Back over here. Oh, right there, come on. All right, to the right of it, right here, let's type in a pattern. 2194246. So that's the pattern. I've removed commas, $signs. There's no spaces. And the next thing to do, it says, select the new pattern in the blank cells below it, and then go to the Home tab and the Editing tab, Fill icon, Flash Fill. Home, Editing, Fill, Flash Fill. Select all this stuff here. Home, Editing, and this one here is Fill, Flash Fill. And look what happened. It used the pattern of the first one and applied that pattern to all the others to get rid of all the extraneous formatting symbols that I don't want. Now I can get rid of this data, making progress. At this point, I want to get all this over here. This spreadsheet, when it came up, as you can see, has these blue cells where you enter data. So the first thing I want to do is highlight all that, select all that, and delete that data because that's the old data. I want to use this new data. Select it, Control C to copy it to the clipboard. Go over here and simply paste it in, Control V. When you get these pound sign symbols, that means that the column is too narrow to show what's in it. So we go up here and expand the column, and there is all the data. We can now hit the escape key, delete all that. We're making progress here, but we're not done. We copied our data into these where these blue cells were. Of course, since they were white cells over here, they made them look like they're not blue. They are blue cells. As we did enter this data, if we wanted to, we could highlight these and go up here and make them blue. However, remember that the starting data went all the way down through row 21. We have another thing to do here. We have to look at our formulas where the functions are used and the ranges here, A2 to A21. The ranges have to be adjusted. They go through 11 now, A11, not 21 anymore. So we have to take this 21 and change it to an 11. Just hit the check mark. Do the same thing with this one. Take the 21, change it to an 11. Check. And we'll do these modes. Change it. And change it. So now we have our data and we have calculations that tell us the mean, the median, and the mode. There's no mode in this data. Another thing that would be useful to do at this point would be to sort this data. It makes things easier to think about. To sort it, we go to the Data tab, and there's a sort here. Let's sort from the largest to the smallest. Click this, and now it's sorted from the largest to the smallest. We can easily see that the mean, 49,414, the mean lies between here and here, whereas the median, 265, lies between here and here. That's one of the advantages of when you sort your data, that allows you to see things more easily. I'll do one more thing here. The mean, 49,414. I'll take this cell here and go to the Home tab and make it have a top border like that. And then the 265 is above this one. I'll do the same thing with that one. And now I can see visually where the mean is and where the median is. And we see that the median here is a better representation of the measure of centrality for this data than the mean is. The mean has been skewed because of this large data value, this outlier up here, made the mean become much higher. There's only 2 items above the mean out of the 10, whereas the median splits them 5 and 5. The instructions here tell you all that in this. Now, you don't always have to go through all this work to copy in data. Sometimes your data will be really easy. It'll come out into multiple rows, not into a single cell, or it might come into a column, and it'll be much easier to do. But having gone through this rather odd example, it shows you that you can get it in there. And you may think, well, you know, I could have just typed all this in rather than go through all that. And you're exactly correct. You could have. for a small sample like this, it would have been quicker just to maybe type them in. However, when you type them in, you might make a mistake. There's a lot of different digits there you have to type. And one little mistake, and it'd be hard for you to see that you made a mistake. Whereas if you're dealing with the data, we didn't really change any of the data items themselves, just their formatting, it's safer. And what if you had a larger data set? Then you would not be able to do it without using these kinds of techniques. All right, so that ends this video about how to enter data from an external source into your Excel spreadsheet.